Hi, I'm Biz Cush, a life coach and therapist, and your host here on the Awaken Your Wise Woman podcast. We're talking to women all over the world who found their way back to themselves, to their inner knowing, to their intuition, to their wisest self. We're exploring how to feel alive, authentic, engaged, and fully present in your life. Let's awaken your wise woman. Hi, and welcome back to the Awaken Your Wise Woman podcast. I'm Biz Cush, your host, and I love this podcast. I love doing it. I love connecting with women who have listened or who've been guests. And I love that this season has been about highly sensitive women because that has really filled my soul in a way that sometimes podcasting doesn't. I mean, I felt like I've really connected and met some really amazing, beautiful women this season. Not that they're not all amazing and beautiful, but it has felt particularly heartfelt this season. So I hope that you're getting something out of it too. If for whatever reason, if you love the podcast, word of mouth is an amazing way to share and grow our audience. So tell one person that you love that you would like to share this podcast with. I would be so appreciative. And I feel like the more we gather, the more we, one, bring more awareness around high sensitivity, but just the more we gather as women, it's really, really important because it's a challenging time right now. Things are feeling a lot. I'm feeling a lot right now. It's hard to read the newspaper. It's hard to pay attention to the news. And yet I want to stay informed and I want to be aware. And it's a lot. I'm coming into this recording having just been a guest on the Autoimmune Campfire podcast that's hosted by Helen Mullen and Nona Jordan. And we talked a lot about parts work. We talked about internal family systems, the parts that get activated around autoimmune conditions and chronic health conditions. And we also dove into sort of trauma and the impact early childhood or childhood trauma can have on our physical well-being and emotional well-being. It was something I was going to talk about today anyway, but from a different context of using parts work around attachment wounds and early childhood developmental wounds, emotional wounds. And it also feels important to connect it to chronic health issues and chronic autoimmune diseases because as research is showing, often those early childhood experiences, what they are calling ACEs, adverse childhood experiences, it does impact our well-being, our overall health, our mental health, and I guess to me, the hopefulness that as we work with our system of parts that had to develop around those challenging experiences early in childhood, the better we can take care of ourselves when maybe our conditions flare up. I have a chronic health condition that I've talked about here on the podcast, but I work with clients who have chronic autoimmune conditions. And it really, to me, when our bodies feel as if there are things that are out of control, out of our control, but just that our body is out of control, it can activate a lot of parts. It can activate the sort of judgmental, what did I do to make this happen? What did I do to cause a flare up at this time? And I think when we can learn to be more compassionate with ourselves, build that compassionate relationship with our parts that might show up when we're not feeling well, but also offer the kindness and compassion that maybe we didn't get as children when we were struggling, that can really help us heal at a much deeper, deeper level. Because when we're not given the tools as children to offer ourselves kindness and compassion when things are hard, when we're not loved unconditionally, or when our caregivers weren't able to meet us and our emotional needs, we find ways to manage the world, and parts of us figure out how to do it for us because those foundational qualities weren't nurtured in us in those early years for some of us. And some of those foundational qualities are love and acceptance and kindness and joy and awe. And when they're not nurtured when we're young, other parts learn to take over and figure out how to navigate the world for us. And thank goodness, right? Like if we didn't have ways to figure out how to navigate the world, if those parts didn't step forward to help us get through or even to survive, maybe we wouldn't be the people we are today, or maybe we might not be here today. So thank goodness for those parts. Thank goodness our system knows how to get us through difficult things. And some of the ways we learn to cope, some of the ways we learn to get through tough stuff as children is we develop these very adult like parts. So maybe you were a parentified child, right? You were taking care of your parent because they emotionally weren't able to take care of you. And if they were unable to care for you when things were bad, you found ways to make sure that they were supported. Maybe you found other people in your life that demonstrated a healthier way of relating. And so maybe there were other attachment figures in your life that really helped you get through and that you found that connection with to yourself to help show those good qualities of yourself to you. But also sometimes we develop a very, very intense inner critic, one that is honestly always looking for ways to keep us from making mistakes or keep us from humiliating ourselves, keep us from doing bad things. And sometimes that inner critic can be so overpoweringly loud that it can cause depression and anxiety. And so, learning to better understand the inner critic so that it can still do the job of keeping you safe, but maybe in a kinder way can be really, really, really helpful. Another part that might develop is a very hyper vigilant, that's what we call it in the therapy world, a hyper vigilant part. So, a part that is scanning for danger, that is looking for possible unsafe people, unsafe circumstances. It's so sure that we're in danger and it's afraid we're going to be hurt that it's always scanning. And I know I have a part like that that has calmed down over the years because I've learned to work with it, to show it that my life today is safe, to show it that where I am today is different than where I was as a child, where things really at times were not safe for me. And so that hypervigilant part still plays. It's not quite as vigilant as it used to be, but it still is on guard or is very watchful for potentially unsafe people, people who I feel this part feels might not be healthy for me. And you know what? I appreciate that because there are times in my life where I have been in relationships that weren't healthy that I didn't fully recognize how unhealthy they were. And so this part is really helping me stay emotionally safe in my relationships. I think the people pleaser part is one that's gotten a lot of bad rap lately. I think you see a lot about, managing your people pleaser part or ditching your people pleaser part. But really, our people pleasing parts have helped us get through a lot of stuff, right? They have really helped us make sure that we are taking care of the people in our lives so that they feel cared for and hopefully in turn will care for us, but that doesn't always happen. But people pleasing parts can become overreactive, right? They can become activated in a way that really depletes our system. So, people pleasing my part might say yes to things, people, places, things that they don't really want to do, right? That other parts of the system are like, no, no, no. But the people pleasing part feels the obligation to say yes anyway. People pleasing parts also can trigger perfectionistic parts. So, really double checking and checking work that we've done or an email that we're about to send because we want to make sure we're not hurting anybody's feelings. So, we want to be sure it's written properly. So, then the perfectionist part shows up and really gets us to overanalyze or rework or not send the email because we don't feel 100% that it's okay. Now, those parts, as I said, they got us through probably some challenging situations in childhood. If we had an aggressive or combative either sibling or parent, a people pleasing part is really important in that it helps us survive. It helps us get through. It helps us potentially calm the environment so that we are safe. And so finding that appreciation for those parts can really help them understand that, again, we're not, hopefully today, we are not in that same environment. So that people pleasing part can see maybe it doesn't have to work so hard. The same with the perfectionist part. Maybe they don't have to work quite so hard today. And again, some of the more extreme parts that can develop when then was dangerous when back then we really were not given the unconditional love and care that our emotional needs were not met in the way that we needed them. Some extreme parts can develop. So when it feels really challenging, when we feel as if there is no joy or excitement or passion in our lives, we might turn to substances or food or external ways to find that pleasure. So sometimes that can kick on sort of what internal family systems calls the firefighter part. It's like when we're feeling really bad, when we're really low, it almost like our system feels like that's just intolerable. We cannot tolerate that anymore. And so we might turn to substances to help relieve that sadness, to help us feel something. They can also turn on when we don't want to feel anything, when everything is feeling overwhelming and we want to numb. It then leads to sort of the numbing of all the feelings. But those parts were developed because they're trying to protect us from harm, from the extreme, big, big feelings showing up, whether it's loneliness or isolation, the things we felt as a kid when we were in relationship with parents that couldn't meet our needs, those very deep wounds can show up in our everyday life. And then potentially these very protective parts jump in to shut down the hurt because they don't want us to feel what it felt like then. But when we build a more compassionate relationship with these parts, again, it can help the parts recognize that one, we ourselves can take care of our emotional needs. But two, that we're not stuck in the past. And 3, that we can tolerate the pain of those younger parts, and we can take care of those younger parts so they're not still being burdened by those painful feelings. Another part that I love to give credit to is our hyper manager parts, our parts that really keep us on track, the parts that get us to work every day, the parts that keep our to-do lists up to date, the parts that push us to keep doing when even maybe we don't need to. But I think our manager parts are, well, they're all important, but they are very important too because they help us manage the day to day stuff that sometimes is boring or sometimes we don't want to do. And so those manager parts are really, really, I am just so grateful for them because they have um, kind of gotten me through some tough times or when it did feel too uncomfortable to sit with my emotions. The manager parts kept me busy and doing things. And when I learned to tolerate the feelings inside, those manager parts have learned that they don't have to push quite so hard to keep me constantly, constantly moving. I think what I love the most about internal family systems, IFS, and parts work, the work that you do with IFS is that we are healing the old wounds. But through that process, we're getting to know the other parts that show up around the wounded parts, the exiles, the parts we've kind of pushed aside because they hold so much pain. But we're learning to build a compassionate, kind, loving relationship with ourself. And through that process, all parts of us, learn to trust our self energy, and we enter the world from one, a more regulated, but a more grounded place when we're bringing forth that compassionate self energy into the world. Even if our parts are showing up too, that self energy is there radiating out into the world. And I think one, that's really important, especially right now. And two, it also attracts others who also are radiating their self energy in the world as well. And if you're curious about working more in depth with your parts, you can go to the IFS Institute website, and they have a practitioner guide there for the different states and different levels of trainings that the people have undergone there. But you can also learn to begin to turn inward. And I think that was the beginning of my journey. I began a meditation practice, I began a self compassion practice, and I worked with guided meditations that helped me better identify what I was feeling and meeting those feelings with kindness and compassion. And that has really helped me tolerate all the emotional stuff I've been carrying that I learned early on to shove down, to avoid, to push away, which also led to a lot of anxiety and depression. And I've learned to be better attuned to my emotional fluctuations, but also to my parts as they're showing up and what that's telling me about what work needs to be done next. Another practice that has really helped me feel more attuned to myself is spending time in nature, really noticing a mindfulness practice in nature. So even if I'm just walking the dog, I'm listening to the birds, I'm feeling the breeze on my skin, smelling whatever smells there might be out there. at night, each night when I take my dog out for his last bathrooming time in the evening, I take a moment to look up at the sky. Can I see the moon? What stars or constellations are out there? Maybe it's cloudy tonight. Is it cold? Is it a nice warm breeze? What smells do I smell? What can I feel on my skin? And typically, those practices are minutes. It's not, my dog goes out and pees and comes right back in because he doesn't like cold weather, at least right now. But it fills something in me. One, it makes me feel like I'm a part of the universe, a part of something bigger. But it also helps me feel less alone, helps me feel connected. That's the word. Connected to the world, connected to the universe. And that feels like a beautiful thing. And lastly, two more things that can really sort of build that inner self awareness are paying attention to your needs. So if you're aware that you are hungry or need to go to the bathroom or you need to rest, can you take the time to take care of yourself and those needs? And it might be that you can't take care of the need in the moment. Say you're really exhausted, but you're at work and you can't go take a nap. You can honor that that's what you know what you need and you wish you could take care of that need right now, but that maybe you will take care of it when you get home, that you will do your best to take care of yourself at a later time. It can also mean you're meeting that need in the moment. Like if you have to go to the bathroom, take yourself to the bathroom, right? I can't tell you how many clients I have, and even my husband, who will say, "Huh, I got home today and realized that I never peed." I'm like, "What?" I personally, I go to the bathroom all day long, so there's that. But I think it's really, really important to be attuned to your body because your body is always letting you know your needs, always. But we're not always listening. So if we can be attuned to our needs, meet ourselves with compassion around those needs, and take care of them when we can. Very, very important. And that brings us back to the beginning of where we started. That as a child, when your needs weren't met, obviously, if your physical needs weren't met, that is really, really devastating and a whole nother layer of self care that might need to happen. And when your emotional needs aren't met, it might not be as clear as the physical needs. You might not have as great a sense of deprivation, if that makes sense. But when our emotional needs aren't met as children, we do find ways to cope. We find ways to get through. We find ways to minimize our needs if they're not going to be met because it feels devastating that they're not. So, the work that we do in adulthood is taking care of those needs today, meeting ourselves with kindness and compassion, loving those parts that maybe we don't understand so much, but we're working to better understand. Taking care of those physical needs as they arise, or meeting ourselves with compassion when we can't take care of them in the moment. When we can build that kind, compassionate, loving, caring relationship with ourselves, with our bodies, with our needs, with our emotions, we are showing up in the world from a different place. We're showing up in the world from our self energy. And that is a beautiful thing. Yeah. Well, if you are a highly sensitive woman who needs support and guidance, I am here. And you can find out more about working with me at elizabethcush.com. Cush is spelled with a C. If you are a resident of Maryland or Delaware, I offer psychotherapy services, and you can find me at progressioncounseling.com. And if neither of those things are what you need or the right fit for you, there are practitioners out there that do parts work, that work with our internal energetic systems, that can help you build that loving, caring, kind relationship with yourself. And if you're already in this work, keep doing it. Keep doing it because the world needs it. We need it. And I honor all of you who are either striving to do the work or doing the work right now. Well, thanks for listening. Share this episode, share the podcast with people in your life that you think might benefit. Even sharing it with one person makes a difference. I hope you have a wonderful week. I hope you take care of yourself. And I look forward to connecting with you next time here on the podcast. Thanks for listening to the Awaken Your Wise Woman podcast. The information in this podcast is not a substitute for seeking help from a licensed mental health professional. Music by Andy Cush, sound editing by Laura Disler, and show notes by Kathy Cush. If you'd like more information about me, Biz Cush, and the resources shared today, go to awakenyourwisewoman.com.